Alright people, welcome back to the Stephen Physique podcast, and we are back with episode 3, and we are kindly joined by Scott Rogers, SR Fitness 365. Why the 365?
I'm not even joking about it. Back in the day, I wanted it to be SR Fitness, and Instagram wouldn't allow it. I needed like some numbers, basically someone already had the username or something. Yeah. So I was like, I had no idea. So then I actually made it into a slogan, like my literal business card says, coaching all year round, so 365 days of the year, literally that. So that's stuck now.
Sick though. To be fair, I'm in a similar position. I got given the name Stephen Physique at university.
I did wonder that because it ain't your surname.
No, I know. Yeah, everyone's like, "What's your surname?" Phillips. Bro, when I go everywhere, like obviously I went to the massage therapist at the gym. And obviously it's a girl that follows me on Instagram. She's like, "What's your surname?" I'm like, "Phillips." No one has any clue. But yeah, obviously Scott joins us today on today's podcast. And we are going to go through our coaching experiences from the very beginning, aren't we? Mm-hmm. So we're just going to go through our life up until now through coaching. Obviously what we've learned, what we've done, would we do things differently, the do's and don'ts. So yeah, one thing I wanted to ask you first of all was like, what initially made you want to become a coach?
I think it was that whole like passion for fitness back in the day. And then, can I turn it into a job effectively? Went down all like the class route and stuff like that. Didn't really enjoy the one-to-one thing, but ultimately it is about effectively changing people's lives and stuff like that. Let's be honest, that's the main thing, and having an impact. And ultimately, if you can earn a living from it, then happy days.
Yeah. So you go back to the boot camps, you say?
Back way before then. So when I was a teenager, I worked in a gym. Small background, so basically I was massively overweight as a kid.
Yeah.
Fell into fitness through, work experience back in school days.
Yeah.
Literally got thrown into a gym. I was like, what the hell? I was always active and stuff, played football and whatnot, but I didn't really have a gym experience. And then absolutely fell in love with it. As soon as I turned 16, joined the gym as a member, and then ended up working at the same gym. Did that for a few years, and that's where the passion for fitness came in. So that's when it really, really started. What was the original question?
Why? What made you start coaching?
Yeah, so basically it just went from that, and then I took some time out of the industry. Basically, there's not too much money you can make within commercial gyms, like just being like a gym instructor and stuff like that. Very limited. So I was in a position where I was like, I wanted more, I wanted to live a better life, but the jobs just weren't allowing me to do that with the income. Yeah. Basically, I made a point of when I was 19, I was earning X amount. I knew that if I was there in 5 years' time, I'd still be earning the same amount of money. And I weren't okay with that, so just literally took 3-4 years out of the industry, went down the recruitment route, which I'm sure we'll touch on, but that kind of gave me an insight into like you can earn more money, etc. And then I just, every time I was sat in that chair just working in recruitment, I was like, how can I get back into the fitness industry?
Yeah.
But I genuinely think like everything happens for a reason and all that cliche stuff, but if I would have set out and tried to run my own business at say 19 when I was working in the gym,
too soon.
I genuinely think I would have failed. Mm-hmm. And as much as I despise the majority of the days within recruitment, it's a tough crack. For anyone who's done recruitment, it's a tough crack. It's a hard sales job. It's probably one of the hardest because you're selling people. So it toughened me up. It kind of showed me how to manage my time, how to kind of be a bit more organised and stuff like that. And that's how I knew that I could take all them transferable skills into potentially running a business. That was basically what it was, and like you say, everything happens for a reason. I genuinely think that when I moved, I went back into the industry when I was 23, I want to say. That's when I felt like I had a little bit more maturity, a bit more of an understanding on how to run a business, a bit more understanding on how to handle money, where to invest, how to close sales and stuff like that. And I think that's now it's led me to kind of where I am now.
100%. I feel like touching upon that, like I feel like just passion when it comes to something like this is not enough. Like you have to
so far.
Yeah, it's only gonna take you so far, and obviously we're sitting here as full-time online coaches. So in terms of like our experiences, passion won't get you to where we are. You have to add other ingredients to the recipe, and that's something that we're obviously gonna touch upon. But yeah, it's obviously nice to get your point of view in terms of how you got into the industry, because mine was a bit different in regards to obviously bodybuilding straight off the bat. Basically when I was 16, that's how I found my love for the gym. Like my brother got a membership, and I was like, Mum, can I get a gym membership? Like literally like this classic spoiled brother, right? And then obviously I just fell in love with it, fell in love with the process, fell in love with like log booking, tracking, everything. And then I did a bodybuilding show, so it's so much different to yours. Like where I did a bodybuilding show, and then people basically said, "Can you coach me?" And I was like,
just based off your physique, you reckon?
"Yeah."
So you know you're qualified or something?
No, exactly. This is something that obviously I want to talk about as well. Like people literally came to me and was like, "Oh, do you coach?"
Yeah.
And this was back in 2018 when it wasn't what it was today, right? So I was like, and then I had like a bit of a light bulb moment. I was like, "Oh, I can maybe pursue this, right?"
Yeah.
So, and that's going back to your point about being mature. Like 2018 was not the right time to really pursue it, and obviously we're going to go through how we got to where we got to in the time frame that we did. But back in 2018, I feel like even if I'd have known what I knew now, it was too early.
Yeah.
And there's always a time for everything. So yeah, like in regards to that, obviously, like it's nice to see that there's not just one pathway to becoming a coach.
No, definitely not.
And like when in regards to, you said you went away, right? When did you think, okay, I'm gonna do coaching now, I'm gonna focus on it? Because obviously you're doing recruitment. What point in the recruitment did you go, okay, now is what I'm gonna focus on it?
Even when I was in recruitment, it would be like finish at 5 and then straight to the gym. Like the gym never went away. It was more just a passion. And then I sort of similar. So like the guys who were in my office doing recruitment, they'd want to tag along to the gym with me because all I'd ever talk about is gym and stuff. And
so
then,
you had that little cult.
Yeah, so they'd come to the gym and then they'd be like, "Can you set me up like a little nutritional plan?" Or what? They see me, they're eating the office food, as I like to call it. I'm still like got my Tupperware and whatnot. I'm still very much into the gym.
Yeah.
And they're like,
so you're following at that point. You're following the process within the.
Yeah, I didn't have a coach or anything like that. I just kind of went by my own knowledge and stuff, and I was still like prepping my food and stuff. And they'd go to get the whatever lunch meal deal jobby, and I'd still have my Tupperware. And they'd ask me questions like, "How come you have that?" or "Why are you having this drink at your desk?" and stuff like that. So it started getting to a point where they were asking so many questions that I almost took away. I was spending my time on my phone under the desk rather than on my laptop doing my work. And then I created basically a fitness account for my own personal development, which I was more invested into updating, more invested into posting what I'm doing than my actual job that was paying me a wage. And when it got to a point where I was like, I would rather, instead of pick that phone up that could be a potential sale, upload my story on my fucking grenade bar or whatever. It became like the passion was almost overtaking my income. And then it got a bit deep. Like basically, I lost a niece at 21 years old, and that was the light bulb moment when I was like, life's too short. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm so unhappy. The only day I enjoyed in recruitment was payday.
Mad.
So I'm living for 12 days a year.
Yeah.
What is the point?
What is the point? Paycheck to paycheck, isn't it?
Exactly. It would, you can earn good money in recruitment. There's a lot of very successful recruiters out there, but I was like, at this point, money is the irrelevant thing. Obviously, I have to pay bills, but it was irrelevant. I'm so unhappy, and you can ask the people close to me, my girlfriend, everyone. I was a completely different person. Like honestly, it was mad. And I just said to myself, I was like, what is the worst that can happen? Worst case scenario, I'll go back into the gym environment in a working job, 20, 25k or something, and be okay. So I was like, how am I going to work this? And I started getting like disciplinaries and stuff because like my levels of work was dropping because I was actually a really good
recruiter. Do you know what? It's actually crazy how like, I'm listening to you speak, right? And I had the exact same situation when it came to working on the doors.
Yeah.
So like what you were talking about in regards to being asked questions from your colleagues at work, I had the exact same situation with guys on the doors, and obviously bodybuilders become dormant 9 times out of 10. So I was obviously giving advice and programs to those guys, and then what was happening was I was spending more time at work on my phone, replying to clients or replying questions, and then from there it just grew and grew and grew, and like I was getting fired from certain jobs because I was on my phone, and like because the door stuff was great money, but long hours, 12, 24 hour shifts, and it was just a case of, right, well I'm doing this and I'm here but I'm not here.
Of course.
You know, and it's like, well, what am I going to do? What am I going to fight?
I was basically waiting to get fired.
Mate, so was I. Like, I literally was like, okay, well, even if you sack me, I know I've got that backup plan. And that's exactly what happened with me. Like, I got sacked before COVID happened. We're obviously going to speak about it. The reason that the catalyst for me going full time was I got sacked from my job. I was working at Fumo in Birmingham, and they sacked me because I was on my phone too much, replying to clients. And then I was like, well, if I keep getting fucking fired from the job that I'm supposed to be working, then what am I doing? I may as well just chase what I want to chase and then see how far it goes.
I completely agree, and that's ultimately where it came to an end. I was getting disciplinaries after disciplinaries, like performance reviews, because obviously it's all KPI driven in sales. and my sales were dropping. Not through, well, it was through a lack of effort because my mind was elsewhere. I wasn't focused
Priorities
on the job now. Exactly. So you want to touch on kind of how I fell into coaching and stuff like that now, yeah? So basically, it went from, I worked in a very close-knit company and they were actually very good to me, and they basically said like, you're not in it anymore, your head's gone.
They realise.
But because when your class is a good recruiter in brackets, you can effectively walk into a job because you pay your own salary because you make money for the company. So
your reputation carries yourself.
Effectively, yeah. When there's LinkedIn and stuff like that, I'm always pretty confident in the least arrogant way possible. If I did leave that company, I could get another recruitment job within the week, easy. So I think because of them knowing that and knowing the kind of clientele that I had on my books, I wasn't allowed to touch it. But they were like, there's always that risk. So they basically put me on 8 weeks garden leave, which is effectively 2 months pay, no work.
Yeah.
So I was like to myself, now I've got 8 weeks.
Fantastic opportunity.
Fantastic opportunity. I've got 2 months pay coming in no matter what I do. I can sit on my house and play FIFA for 2 months, or I've got 2 months to create a business. So I was doing everything under the sun. I was coaching people for free. I outreached to anyone online who I was like, you got a decent following, I'm willing to coach you, give you a plan if you just basically plug me. So my following went through the roof. I started advertising that I was coaching, still not charging at this point, 4 weeks in. I'm starting to do, I don't even know if it was legal, because I was starting to get paid from gyms for just covering camps, in-house classes. In-house classes and stuff like that.
Gonna get a letter from your girl, like.
So I was doing like in-house classes, like £25 an hour or whatever. So I was racking them up. So I was still starting to get a bit of income, and then I started my boot camps, and that's really like the start point where I was like, I can actually make a living here. I basically worked out quick maths. It was like, if I can get 20 people to a field and pay a fiver, that's £100 for an hour's work.
How many times can you do that a week?
I was like, that's it. If I can do 3 of them a week, that's £1,200. That's my bills.
That's the number side of coaching.
That's minimum. Do you know what I mean? That's minimum. So I was like, if I can do that, so I started running a couple of free classes. Right. Basically, come to my class. You haven't got to pay, but all I ask is you give me some honest feedback. So I gave him a little review sheet. How did you find it? What could I improve? Blah blah blah. But also plug me away. Yeah, great boot camp. Blah blah blah. So I was like, wicked, this is going to work. So I outsourced all of my help, and was like, look, I'll help you for free, whether that's food plan, whether that's a training plan, whether that's just some advice, I'll give it to you for free. All I'm asking is a little bit of like air, basically. Get me out there. People started messaging me like, oh, are you doing fitness now? Like, you're not in recruitment anymore. Bang, I'm starting to see, and it literally went rolling like that. And then from then, I launched 6 camps a week. £45 a month to come to 2, £59 a month to come for free. Which one do you want to do? And the sign-ups, I'm not, obviously when something's new, it gets rowdy, like people want to come to it, and it blew up. And I doubled my income within like a month.
And now, do you know, and I think it's very, very important to scale that back to the point where none of that is possible without you getting your foot in the door by offering the free coaching.
I think so, personally, yeah.
That's a lot of people come to me and they say, okay, what's the one thing that I need to do to start my coaching? Do it for free. Do it for free. Learn the ropes. Learn the side of coaching that needs to be learned in terms of developing your people skills, developing the nutrition, developing the training, because it's literally like passing a driving test. You don't become a good driver until you experience it on the road yourself, because you don't have someone there consistently guiding you. Right? That's when you become the driver that you are today, right? Not because you've got someone who's babysitting you, right? So you need to go out there, get the experience on the field, and then all of those opportunities, obviously you have to do a good job, but all of those opportunities come off the back of that free exposure, and you have to really be willing to put your ego aside and say, do you know what, I have to build from the ground up, I have to do this for free to help as many people out, and then that's when you get the recognition.
I think that's the tricky part, and that's the part where
Where do you cross the line as well? Like, that's something.
It's the part where I had a lot of help because I had them 2 months paid.
Because you were essentially doing it for free, but you were still getting an income.
Still getting paid. When that crossover changed on month 3, I was like, I started charging just before then because I was like, I need to see if people would be willing to actually give money to this. But I was like, I need to have that transition of the first month where I'm not joking, like I must have aired so many messages, like bang, 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 like, can you do this? Hi, are you okay to do this if I do this for you? And it was like, what is the worst that's going to happen? They say no, or I'm already with someone, or I'm not interested, or whatever. And I'm sure there was plenty of them. But enough people just like the fact of having something for free. Even if they didn't do it,
and And that's another great thing. Like if you give, like you're gonna really understand how much demand there is for your service when you give it for free, right? Because then you can gauge good numbers, right? If you're giving, let's put it this way, if you're giving something out for free and there's 5 people that want to take you up on it, chances are, even when you start charging for it, you're not going to get much business.
Yeah.
But if you get 50 people, then you can understand, you get that tangible evidence saying, okay, well, how many of those 50 would pay?
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's probably about 10, 15, 20%, right? So that's really important, and you're not going to know until you offer it for free.
Yeah,
People are too scared to do that because they're not getting paid. But the payment comes later on. It's about planting your seed and letting it grow.
Yeah,
100%. And that's the important thing about coaching.
So that's what I think it came to. Then first 8 weeks, I started actually getting transformations. I started getting people messaging me saying, dropped a couple of pounds, stuff like that. Screen grab that, bang, straight on the ground.
Gosh, yeah.
Results.
Engagement.
And enrollment, engagement, and things were flying. And I went from, I'm not joking, my first couple of 100 followers were bots because it was hashtags.
Yeah.
And it weren't until I had it closed for a while because I was like, I'm not sure what people are going to think. Do you know what I mean? I was reviewing grenade bars like, this is a great bar. Honestly, if you've got a spare hour, scroll to the bottom. Honestly,
It'll take you that long to get there.
Watch the first video. I'm like,
you still got them up there?
I'm not kind of
Well, I've deleted mine, I'll tell you.
I kind of look at the camera. I'm like, oh, this grenade bar is lovely. You want to try it? Pick it up from Co-op. Honestly, it was so bad. But obviously you learn. Like with anything, you get better over time. Like jumping in front of a camera. I got absolutely slaughtered by my pals, as you can imagine.
Oh,
so
mate,
like, what do you do it?
Yeah.
Now I coach my pals.
I used to get it at university a lot, yeah.
I coach
because I was the
people
different.
now.
Like when I was at university, I was the guy that played football and bodyboard.
Yeah.
I was literally the only one. Right?
Yeah.
I was in goal, playing first team football, built like a brick fucking shit house. And like I used to be the guy that was the gym guy. Like there was no other guy at university who was that. So obviously I benefit from that a lot. And obviously, like you said, I coach a lot of people who I've been to university with, which is quite cool.
But coming back to the original point, it's like, again, that coming back to everything happens for a reason. I genuinely think I'm possibly where I am today because of what I did right at the start. And at the time, I'm giving out all this free information, I'm getting nothing in return. But now I'm almost like reap the rewards.
Exactly.
Because I've still got that clientele, I've still got that. Like I've given people plans. 2 years later, they've come back and paid full whack for a coaching service. Because they've worked with
because they've got the validation. And it's really important that you build the validation, but the validation has to come from either you as a person, your physique, the way you represent yourself, or your knowledge, right? It's a trifecta, and even if you just nail one of them, like I said, like me being in the shape that I was with my bodybuilding prep was enough validation for people to go, can I be coached by you? And then with you, it was a case of you gave out the free information.
I think there's negatives to that as well as positives.
Well, this is what I want to touch upon. So, like in terms of do's and don'ts, right? I'm going to give you my side first in terms of do's and don'ts. Like, I personally feel I wasn't, and I'll openly admit this because it's a fair thing to say. I personally feel in 2018 I should not have been coaching people, right? And the reason why I did coach people is because no one was there to tell me otherwise. And this is why I want to do this podcast. Is because just because something is given to you doesn't mean you have to take it, right? And I very much not regret, but I very much look back at coaching people in 2018, and I kind of feel like a bit of a fraud because it wasn't coaching. You know, it was a case.
You coached them because you had a good physique.
I coached them because I had a good physique, not because I was a good coach. Exactly. So like that's something that I want to make sure that I get across within this podcast is that just because someone asks something of you doesn't mean that you're in a position to give it to them, right? And there's a catch-22 with that because you have to obviously be confident and back yourself, but at the same time almost kind of know your place. And if you genuinely don't feel confident in enough to be taking money from someone for a service, wait. Just wait. There will be a time. People are always going to want help. People always want to make changes. So it's about going at your pace and your time. So that's I would say don't ever rush into it because it's very accessible right now and it's the thing to do, right? And everybody wants to try and do it, but you have to maintain the reason why you're doing it. Like we have our reasons, and just because someone says, "Oh, I want you to coach me," doesn't mean you should do it. You know, that's
definitely not. And that's what you have to remember sometimes. Is like it's all fun and games, like losing a few pounds, but if you coach people incorrectly to an extreme, you can really
you can that can be their mentality moving forward, isn't it?
And that's on you.
But
that's what you have to understand is that there's no governing body in our industry.
Yeah,
which is a
there's
tricky
pros and cons to that.
And that's what we come back to. Obviously, you had your qualifications from back in the day and stuff, but like people came to you to want coaching because you had a good physique, so they instantly assumed assumed you were qualified, assumed because you've got a good
I knew what I was doing.
you can get them over Physique, and luckily for you had the backing. But that's the problem now on social media with all the editing and stuff like that. You can see an influencer in brackets that's got a good physique. They'll coach. I've seen some influencers with bags of followers, $9.99 to coach them, and they'll balls them up mentally and physically because they're not a coach.
And they don't also
but they've got that validation because they've got a good physique.
And the numbers on the following.
It's mad.
Yeah, and that's something that you've got to be careful of, because just because you have a good physique doesn't mean you're a good coach. And vice versa, just because you don't have a good physique doesn't mean you're a good coach.
That's the other thing as well. That's the flip side. I think there's that, and it probably comes back to social media again, is that there's two sides to look at it. Like, you wouldn't go to a blind driving instructor. So would you go to a coach who's out of shape? Like, when I talk out of shape, I don't mean they've just come back from holiday, got a little bit of chub on them. I mean, like, if someone's morbidly obese, I wouldn't ask them to coach.
They don't look like they take their own advice.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to take your own advice, and you've got to almost kind of
walk the
walk, if you like, or lead by example is probably a better terminology.
Lead by example is very good.
So if they're not leading by example, like, no one wants to see me putting my Stairmaster up every morning, but if I'm seen to be working, I can expect that of my clients. Do you know what I mean? Like,
and that goes back to validation. Like that, you're consistently, by doing that, people don't understand, by doing that, you're consistently validating yourself as a coach, as a person, because coaching isn't just about nutrition training, it's about having the dedication at something. And like you said at the beginning of this podcast about transferable skills, there's a lot of transferable skills that can go into coaching. So dedication, commitment, sacrifice, they're blanket terms that people use, but to become a full-time online coach, to become someone who's consistently looking after their physique, you need to be committed, you need to sacrifice, you need to dedicate, right? And those three transferable skills can take you very, very far depending on doesn't matter what area of life you want to go into, you know. So if you're consistently showing that and consistently walking the walk doesn't necessarily have to be you're talking about a certain topic. It just has to be you as a person, how you carry yourself. And that's something that I massively misunderstood when I was in 2018, is that I didn't conduct myself in the best way possible as I do now and as a full-time online coach should, in my opinion. So like, that's what I mean. You have to kind of look at yourself and you have to feel that you are going to be ready, because if you're not, then you're just going to end up failing, you know.
I think it's that whole like when you're online and stuff like that, like we said earlier when we were on just doing our steps, is like you are your business. So, and people buy from people and stuff like that, and you're a prime example of your personality. It will attract a certain clientele, 100%. But it will also put off. But the thing is, they're never going to buy from you.
No.
So you're not too fussed. Do you know what I mean? So
enough people.
Being yourself is really important, and standing out is really important, because then you niche your own market. And touching on your point about like giving advice in terms of stuff like that, I would say don't be a jack of all trades. Like
have your place.
Have your niche. And you don't have to go too niche in terms of like 30 to 32-year-old stuff like that. It's more about like, alright, are you fat loss? Are you muscle gain? Are you body transformation? Are you going to do lifestyle? Are you going to do bodybuilding prep, stuff like that? Instead of trying to do everything, pick something that you can relate to, something that you're good at, and build from that. Because I did that when I first started. I pretty much just said yes to everyone. I can help you. And to a degree, you probably can.
But I think that's very important, because you need to build that base knowledge. You need to build that base foundation. Then you can go into more specific. It's basically the same as the university degree, right? You can go and do sports and exercise science at university, but then once you want to do a master's, then you can become more specific. It's the same with coaching, right? You want to get a really broad basic knowledge of nutrition, training, blah, 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 and then you can hone in on your skills. Like for me, I coach differently to you, but our basic knowledge of nutrition and training is very similar, because the basics are the basics. The basics aren't ever going to change. What does change is the little nuances and the little pieces of research that come out, right? But a protein, 1 gram of protein is still 4 calories. 1 gram of carbohydrate is still 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is still 9 calories. That's never going to change, right? So having that basic knowledge, and this is something I want to touch upon, like, where did you go to get that base level of knowledge?
Obviously from my own studies. So obviously growing up, I did all like the sports stuff, like you said, got all the qualifications and whatnot. To a point now where I actually do that as almost like a bit of tutoring and stuff. I do that to other people that are going through their qualifications. I do really enjoy that. But going back onto your main point, it was through, first of all, your own knowledge. Second of all, trial and error.
Yeah, massive one.
Okay, that didn't work for me. Third of all, is influences within your circle. So obviously I've been coached by a couple of coaches. I've taken bits from them, and it's all that kind of downward funnel. Do you know what I mean? There's someone top dog coaching them, there's someone coaching them, and it feeds all the way down. I now coach coaches who I'm sure use my information to coach whoever they're coaching, and I'm cool with that. Do you know what I mean? because that's the kind of cycle. Because I'm learning from my current coach, I've learned from my previous coaches, and they're the people that, you know, I'll question why my coach is doing something, not because I'm like trying to pick him up on something, because I want to learn. Do you know what I mean? So I'm asking about like manipulation of this and how comes we're, you know, doing water and stuff like that down in peak weeks and whatnot, and that's for me to understand so I can implement it to my clients, and he'll know that, and he'll coach. I think he's coached by Cal. You know what I mean? It's the same philosophy. So in terms of like finding all your knowledge, you pick up little nuggets as you go along, and even just spending 24 hours with you, I'll pick something up from you. I'll be like, hang on a minute, I could use that. Do you know what I mean? So it's about that circle and surrounding yourself with the right people and following people that actually have an influence on you. To use that terminology loosely, like instead of following people for the wrong reasons in terms of trying to keep up with whatever they're doing and slagging them off and giving them hate or whatever, I just follow people who I genuinely have an interest in following. And I think that's really important when it comes down to people. Do you know what I mean? Like,
do you know what I was going to say? That like
it's silly.
It's so much easier to invest in something you're interested in. Like when it comes to knowledge, particularly, right? There's a lot of knowledge out there when it comes to coaching, right? And what I've found is the best thing to do is if you like the sound of something or if something intrigues you, right? Go and research it. Go and pursue it, right? Do you know what? My best piece of coursework throughout my whole university was my first class honours dissertation. Now technically that should be the hardest piece of work you do throughout the whole 3 years, right? But because I was doing something that I was interested in, I was fully in. I was all in, I was researching, I was implementing certain ways of researching, etc, right? And that's because I was interested. So like if you pick up a video and you watch something, the information's out there, type it into Google, go onto Google Scholar, go onto YouTube, type the topic in and fish. Go fucking fishing, man, because that's the way that you're going to learn, and that's the way that you're going to understand topics better, because it's about questioning what you already know, and that's how you always develop.
I think that's a good point, and for me, that's how I knew that this was the industry that I was, as weird as it sounds like, made for. Because
I was made for this, bro.
because I have an interest, and I was growing up, I was like, surely I'm not dumb, like I don't get it. And it's because in geography, history, like science, maths, I didn't care because I wasn't interested. But when it came to PE, A-star student, like I was listening, I was functioning, I was asking questions, I was like the teacher's pet effectively, because it was of interest. And that comes back to later on in life, is like I'm sat there on my recruitment desk, not because I'm done not doing the work, because I have no interest in it. I'd rather be Googling something else, and I normally 9 times out of 10 I probably was. I'd have a separate tab which was something of interest. Do you know what I mean? This was just paying the bills, until I realised that I could pay my bills through with something I was interested in. Like you see all that motivational stuff online, it's like basically quit your job, do something you enjoy, you'll make money. But I know obviously it's not as simple as that sometimes, but if you find the foundations and you want something enough, you will.
That leads me on to a really good question, like just going literally off the back of what you just said, like because we chase something that we're interested in, the journey that you had going full time and the journey that I had going full time are two very contrasting situations. Now, when would you say, just off the back of this conversation that you just had about the topic you just spoke about, when would you say the best time is to go full time?
It obviously depends on your position and what's behind you, but if you are in this is obviously slightly different to what I did because I didn't have the opportunity to do it, but if I was charging when I was coaching, sat in my recruitment chair, once my income for my side hustle overtook my income for my real job, if you like, that's a key indicator straight away.
Because then you'll replace
your side hustle is earning you more than your hustle. There's your key factor. Sometimes if you've, I don't know, at the time I was living at home, I didn't have my own place.
Didn't have all money over.
I was like, I could go now, do you know what I mean? I'll be okay. So it does depend on the individual situation. But for me, like, I was doing online ever since I got back into the industry, which was 2018, I believe. I was doing online, but it was kind of, that was the side hustle. The boot camps was the main hustle, and the classes and stuff, and then I got the supplement shop and stuff like that. There was too many hustles going on. So I never really fully invested into online coaching until lockdown. Then I had no choice. Lockdown, you know, and I know there's a lot of people that suffered from lockdown, so I don't want to go too far into it and make out that it was amazing for me. But lockdown changed my life in a positive way.
I agree with that.
I had so much time, one thing I never had. I had so much freedom, and I couldn't do nothing but either play PlayStation or do my business. So, and that's when obviously I touched on we're both with like Limitless and stuff like that. That's when I fully invested in a time where financially we were probably on the biggest strain. I probably took one of my biggest risks.
No, and that's a massive thing that you just said about risk taking. Like, it goes down to having the time, and COVID was a blessing in that respect because it afforded us that time. Now, would we have both been in the same situation had COVID not happened? Probably not, but only because the time wouldn't have been there.
I think my route would have been different. I'll always have that drive, and I'll always want more, and I'll always push for success. But I do think my directions would have gone slightly differently, because the coaching was a side hustle. I probably had 15 clients online. The boot camp was the driver, but the boot camp stopped. You couldn't meet people.
So you had to adapt.
So I had no other option but to say to my boot camp clients, look, we're going to have to go online here.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'll work it out. I'll sort it out. And that's when I got to work.
Yeah.
Because I think they gave us a little heads up, by the way, in like 2 weeks, like shit's going down, it's going to be a new town. So I was like, right, what can I do? Bought myself a tripod. I was like, right, maybe I can do these Joe Wixie type hit workouts, like do something, like just try to look after my clients. And obviously like the kind of notices come flooding in because people crap themselves because they were losing all their money and whatnot. But I was like, this is a time where me myself, I've got plenty of time, but also everybody else has plenty of time. And the one thing they can actually do is fitness, is look after their health, is go on walks. People are looking forward to training. The amount of people are doing 5Ks and doing 10K steps.
It was mental.
They had nothing else to do.
Yeah, it was mental because they had nothing else to do.
So they had the time. Like, these people have, once they realise they actually have more money than what they've ever had because you can't bloody spend anything. Yeah. Once you're saving 150 from bloody spoons every weekend, you've got this money.
Your whole perspective changes.
You can actually invest. So people are like coming to me like, I've actually got more money now. Like I'm in a position to invest, and that's when things changed. Then I went from 50 to 30 to 15 to 30 to 75 to 90. Like I was pushing over 100 clients at this time,
mental.
And it was just carnage. Like it was madness.
But like you just like, I don't know about you, but like in respect to that situation, like, I just went full on fucking attack mode.
Yeah, I did.
Like I was like, do you know what? I'm just gonna do this, get the numbers in, and cross the bridges when I get to them. You know, and that's something that I feel like people need to understand. Like, push your boundaries. You want to make something a success, you're gonna have to push your boundaries. You're gonna have to push your own limits and see where your limit is. Like I'm pretty comfortable in saying I know where my limit is. You probably say the same.
I do now, yeah.
Exactly, you do now. So
because I overtook it.
Exactly. So like we both come from the same scenario where we both pushed it to a point where we were like, okay, enough is enough. But you have to push it to the point to know where your maximum is.
I think that's important.
And that's something that really people within coaching don't quite understand. They think, okay, well, I'm going to hit these numbers and that's fine. When why don't you just reach for the stars, go for the goals, and see where you can ultimately end up, and then scale back from there.
Yeah, definitely.
100%. Because I think within coaching, it has that scalability. It has the opportunity for that, right? So I would always say, like, go as hard as you can, find your level, and then from there, that's when you look at hiring. So like now, obviously, I'm in a different position where I've actually got less clients than I did last year, but my structure is more fun, like more like complete.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, and I would not have been in that position had I not pushed, stressed myself out to fuck.
Yeah.
And found my level.
Yeah, I borderline had a breakdown.
Mate, I was 2 weeks out crying because I'd just been sacked from my PT place.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what I can do, blah, blah. And then 6 weeks later, I've got about 75 clients I'm dealing with. Do you know what I mean? So like, you always have that breaking point where you go, you either go further or you then step back. You know, but you have to find the breaking point. That's the really important thing. Like, you have to find out where your level is, because otherwise you're never going to know. And like, for me, it was the intrigue. For me, it was like, hey, how far can I push this?
Yeah.
You know?
It depends on what else you're juggling. Like, I was juggling a lot. Like, I was in the process, at this point, I was in the process of purchasing a property. I ran a full-time supplement shop. I had my boot camps, which was 6 a.m. in the morning, 6 p.m. at night. I was trying to keep up a social life whilst trying to prep, whilst having this influx of new online clients, whilst I was going through all these new systems.
So you had a lot more to do with me.
So I just rambled off 8 things that I was thinking about on a daily basis. And it got to a point where I was like,
fuck, something needs to give.
I cut my prep 4 weeks. I said, I'm not doing it anymore. And I flew to Ibiza and took 7 days completely off, like laptop down. And I came back a new person. But it shouldn't have to get to that point, really.
No, that's probably too far.
It was too far, mate. And I was like, stressed, like mad stress.
But the thing is, like, you probably, like that leads me on to the last question, like how we're going to wrap this up. Like, what is kind of the one thing that you would give yourself advice on, and something that you wish you knew when you started?
First of all, 100% value in your service. The reason why I was so busy, because for me to earn a decent level of income, I had to take on mad clients because I wasn't charging enough for my service.
Mate, do you know what? That was one of the first conversations me and you ever had.
Yeah, I think I told you what I was charging.
Yeah, and I was like, are you fucking alright?
Are you mad? Are you mad?
I was literally charging double.
And I think I upped it by about 35%.
And you were shitting yourself as well, weren't you?
Yeah, of course, because I was like, right, I'm about to send a mass message out to all of my clients.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Explaining that I'm going to increase my... I did some bits to almost...
Bridge the gap.
Yeah, so they understood, like, I'm doing a new system, I'm going I'm going to be offering this now. And I put it up roughly another 30 quid or something, and I had one cancel. And I was like, wow. Like,
better than you could have ever imagined.
It's mad, isn't it? And then the actual results started to get better, because people are now financially almost committed.
Once I think, do you know what, that's one thing I will say, like, in terms of not my actual thing I wish I knew, but financial investment from a client perspective is so important.
Yeah.
Like, but it's again making sure you make the correct decision with that, and it's very important to not only value your service but also value your time and value what the client is getting from you.
Sure.
And you have to understand. And that, do you know what? I'll be the first to say that takes a little bit of time to understand.
There's a massive grey area.
Yeah, you have to make sure that fits within your structure, within your service, within the results that you're providing. But at the end of the day, back yourself. You know?
The thing is that value in your service goes both ways. It's like, I can't now charge. I don't personally feel I'm happy to stay in my own lane. I'm not going to double my price now just to earn more money when I don't feel like I give that amount of value. You know, if you're going to compare yourself to other coaches, what am I doing differently? And I'm like, I don't have the knowledge that these guys that have been in the industry for 20 years have got to warrant charging that. I'm not. That's taking a piss.
There's levels.
Do you know what I mean? So don't undervalue, but don't overvalue.
But know where your level is.
Know your level, and that's
100%.
exactly important. I think.
And remaining humble in that is really important, because again, it comes back to why you're doing it. Like, obviously, I have to put a charge on my service. You have to put a charge on my service, but it's not the primary objective. The primary objective is to help as many people as I can, and I want to make sure that I leave a legacy, and I want to make sure that people know who I am and what I bring to the table. You know, that's part of the reason why I get up in the morning. And obviously, you add into like the fact that I obviously have to make a living. Obviously, I want to look after my parents, etc. But at the end of the day, the reason why I'm getting up out of bed is to help people and put people in a position that I never had the opportunity to be in. You know, and that's what drives me forward. And obviously, that's why I think people need to really make sure they know, first of all, because when shit gets tough, right? And obviously, we know both. Online coaching is not a straightforward trajectory. Like, it's so up and down, up and down, up and down. You have to remain very concrete in your why, because if you don't, you're gonna lose your shit. And then as soon as you lose your shit, everything goes to fucking pot. So you need to make sure that when you're gonna have a bad month, and when, because these do happen, bad months do happen. Like, you're gonna lose a handful of clients like that, and they have no explanation. They're just gonna fucking drop off the face of the earth. We need to understand why you're doing it, and if the reason you're doing it is because of your finances, you're gonna proper shit your fucking pants when people leave.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
And again, that again comes down to you as a person, how you carry yourself, how people perceive you. Because I know some coaches out there, they will get just sign-ups by doing zero outreach because they are who they are, and they're validated. But they would have worked that some point. Yeah, exactly. They've validated themselves for such a long time. Put the graft in, and that's what I think. That is. I think that's a really good point to almost finish on. If you like, if potentially you've got coaches that listen to your podcast or about to be coaches, they may just see the online as the glory days. Like, they'll see us like do a couple of check-ins here and there, and then we'll just jolly it up, go gym when we want. And there is a balance to it. Like, the part of the reason why I do online coaching is I do have that freedom as well. But it's not as freedom as you think. You have to work. You have to work. The amount of arguments I've had, because I'm still doing check-ins at 10:30 at night, but I'm delivering a service. I don't have working hours as such. No, it never stops. 24/7. It never stops. And if let me say this now. If you think you can be a coach and you can put your phone down at 6 p.m. and that's it, you will never be successful. Let me tell you this now. You can't just put your phone down. You have to be accessible. You have to be on job 24/7. And this is me telling anybody who's out there trying to be a coach. If you think it's a 9 to 5, and if you think you can have working hours, you go do something else. You go work for someone and do a 9 to 5, because being an entrepreneur and being somebody who's always trying to strive for better is a 24/7, 365 day thing. Exactly. It never stops. The self-doubt never stops. The self-improvement never stops. right? And it's important to understand the mentality when you go into it, because if you don't, then you're going to think, yeah, I can switch off here. And it's important to take breaks, but you need to make sure for the first 12 months, I was fucking relentless, bro.
Yeah, man,
I did not stop. But you need to do that to then go, okay, well now I'm going to run my business and I'm not going to let my business run me. You know, so
then you can slow it down,
and that's
a massive point that I've put in recently. Is like, I'm not saying I've completed it by any stretch of imagination, but I grafted for 3 years, and I'm talking like the odd day off, but grafting like consistently, day in day out, working on holidays and stuff. Like that had to happen, but now it's at a point where I'm like, I can afford to have a day off, or I can afford to have a little bit of time off and not feel guilt about it. Because I used to feel guilty.
Yeah, because you earned it.
Yeah.
You know, we put the
hours in. You've got to put the work in to start with.
100%. If you don't put the work in, you can kiss goodbye to any of the freedom, any of the glory that comes with it. Because you have to put your hours in. You have to put your hours in. It's literally like anything else. You know, you're only going to become a master of your trade by putting hundreds of hours into it. And if you're limiting yourself to working 6 hours a day on something, it's going to take time. And if you have that time and you want to afford yourself that time, that's absolutely fine. But what I'm saying is, we didn't want to do that.
No.
We were like, do you know what? How much progress can we achieve our 2-year target in 6 months? That's how I looked at it. And that's why we're sitting here, obviously giving the advice that we can. And I would say that the one thing to end up this, to wrap up this podcast, I would say the main thing you need to understand is, it's like anything, right? If you want it bad enough, you're going to make it work. And if you don't be mad at yourself, and don't really beat yourself up about it. At least you tried. Like, coaching's not going to be for everyone. Just as sprinting, just as playing tennis isn't going to be for everyone. But you're only going to find out if it's for you if you try it, right? And that's one thing I want to end this podcast with. If you're looking to be a coach, please, I encourage you to try. Invest your time in nutrition, invest your time in training, invest your time in understanding supplementation and the process that is behind coaching. And if it works out, fantastic. Shout me a message and give me credit. But if it doesn't, that's absolutely okay. You're meant to do something else in this world. Like, don't be worried about it. You know, and that's all I want to say. And have you got anything else to add?
I want to drop the mic.
Yeah, that's it, Bosh. Take care now. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, for taking the time to listen to this podcast, and I hope you guys have enjoyed it. And yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Bosh.